that. Make sure we get over here to the old YouTube, but we are at least hitting some of the platforms. We'll find out here. Yep, there we go.
Great start.
We're good. That it's always tenuous. It's always tenuous. And last Sunday, when it took me a while to figure out what was wrong, and I had to re-enter the restream key and all this other fun stuff, it ate into our time, and we had to get off air because there was a NBA live before lock. So,
right,
boy, we got a lot of moving parts here. We've got we're coming a little early, so we'll let the people collect and come on in here. And we've got a 6-game slate, so we have plenty of time here. Plenty of time. Sad for Chadwick Boseman.
Terrible. What horrible news. I mean, 2020 has just been brutal, and that was just an extra gut punch. I mean, the guy meant so much to so many people, and meant a lot in the community and the Black community with the roles that he played. Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson, T'Challa. I mean, he was just standout actor, phenomenal guy. It's, like I tweeted last night, Wakanda forever.
Yeah,
power, man.
And that's what I kind of remember him from. But then you see his whole body of work, and you're like, oh, yeah, he was in a lot of notable movies. How did I not? Because I'm watching I've told you I'm watching the Marvel movies in their timeline order. So I've got everything I think now is, Chris Evans is only Captain America, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think of him, even though we haven't gotten to that one yet, I just think of him as his characters, because you get to see little bits and pieces at the end of the movies and stuff like that. So yeah, all of a sudden you look up, and I had forgotten the Jackie Robinson one. Like, wait a second, how am I don't. That was a good movie. And I really liked it. And for some reason, it just kind of, when I think of it, I lean back to The Natural or some of those other movies where it's not like Major League or Bull Durham or the more modern ones. It just kind of takes me. And so I've got them all filed away, and I think they're all phenomenal movies. But I was just like, oh, how did I forget that one with the...
Yeah, it's honestly one I've seen a couple times, but it's not one that seems like it's on all the time.
Yeah,
that one, so it's just one that slips by a little bit, and it's a shame. He was fantastic and just a hell of an actor. I mean, everything he was in, he was spectacular. Right. Amazing this day and age to be able to keep something like that secret for 4 years. That's just mind blowing to me too. I mean,
and then you find out all the neat things he was doing for charity and for other people, and you're just like, oh man, really? Yeah. You really? It's just life is fleeting. Life is fleeting.
I don't know. 2020 is brutal.
All right. Did you see the home run in the rain yesterday, Colorado?
No, I missed it. I didn't catch a lot of highlights last night, so I did not see it.
Kemp, I think, was that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think Kemp did get one.
Yeah, I gotta change your Adam Scherer, and we're doing basketball right now.
We don't want to ruin Adam's reputation.
No. So let's change this to the MLB, and chat. Don't worry, we're gonna be off to the races here. We started a little early, which for us is way early, because we usually start it's the Awesemo clock. 3 minutes after you're supposed to start is when you go live. So we're gonna do Terry T. McBee and your old pal. There we go. All right, so just a 6-gamer tonight. We had a five games earlier today on the main slate. We've got NASCAR that's going off at 7:30. It's the Daytona race. We've got everything that you need for that. We've got MMA is about to lock or just locked. So there's stuff for that. Tomorrow we're gonna do MLB DFS strategy show / live before lock from 11 to 12. From 12 to 1, we're going to do the NBA live before lock. That'll be Josh Engelman and Zach Bruner. They're taking care of you guys like they did last weekend. So we have the dueling 1 o'clock locks, and then it'll be interesting to see for Sunday baseball. Are the sites going to include or exclude those 3 o'clock games? We've got Baltimore in Toronto, nay Buffalo, and then we've got Coors Field. So sometimes they've had them, sometimes they haven't. who knows anymore? Literally, who knows anymore? So
with Coors, they'll probably stretch and.
But they haven't for so long. That's the weird thing. That's or consistently anyway. So, in any event, that's where we are. So let's get up our information here. We're gonna jump on out. We got a couple hundred people in here. Go ahead, hit that like button there. We'll get that out of the way now. And then again, if you are doing basketball, that first tip is going to be the next game is going off at 6:30. Russell Westbrook is going to be on limited / monitored minutes. He's looked explosive. Is the word in camp or in practice, but remember, they played him when they really didn't need to, and he got hurt. So is this the time the coach is actually going to follow the prescriptive guidelines, or is this the time where he does what he wants again? I don't know.
What's your thought? Just based on game flow, probably?
The series is 2-2, and I will just spend a minute on this. The series is 2-2. You really need to get this game. They're favored. Houston's still favored. I didn't look at what it moved to after Westbrook's minutes things, but they're favored by 5.5. Really need to get this game. Former team, all that. I could see if this is down to the wire, that cap will be exceeded, is my guess. Because they're not going to stagger it to give him closing minutes. They're going to play him, and then I would assume they're hoping that they're up, and they're not going to need him at the end. But I have a feeling he'll be closer to 30 is my estimation. Not the 36, 37, 38, 40 we'd expect if he was healthy.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little higher than
usual playoff.
Yeah, this is more of a soft limit, in my opinion. We'll see. And I think that extra 4 days from when they were going to play till now is going to be helpful. So anyway, that gets us all there. All right. Now, let's look at tonight's game. The news god says no weather.
The one I had seen was, I think, the Boston game, but I rely completely on the news god. So if that's the latest, that's great. Because that was the one I was a little bit concerned with.
Well, it's a helpful thing we have, because he is he actually is the news god. They're not the god, but the news god, right? So there's still room for up. But what he does for us is he collects all of the various information from the other sites, the Twitter sphere, the public relations, everything. He has a masterful Twitter list set up, and he knows everything. The other day he was popping in with League of Legends updates. I didn't know he covered League, but the news god covers everything. So we get weather, we get NBA, we get MLB, NFL's right around the corner. He's everywhere. So I'm just
and that live news blog of his is just great for just keeping up with things. Quick checks for all right, did I miss anything these last 15 minutes while I was out walking the dog or whatever? I rely on it constantly, and he's saved my bacon a couple times.
It's right there, and that's on the homepage, and you can find that at the homepage at Awesemo. And it's I don't think you don't have to be a member for it. I think you have to have an account. That doesn't mean you have to have a subscription, but that gets you in there, and you can ask questions and such, and he'll be in there before the locks for the important games. I don't know that he's.
Well, let's face it, you should have a subscription anyway.
You should. You really should, right? Especially the NFL tools are amazing. They just dropped a promo video of Alex showing how the live draft wingman works and all that. It's pretty slick.
I saw that pop up. I haven't watched it yet.
Just saying, guys, oh my God, our people have been hard at work here behind the scenes. And most of us have contributed in some way to the NFL content, writing player capsules and stuff like that. But we have brought in a whole new host of writers and stuff. So we're covering the season long, the best ball drafts. There's a show from last night. Adam and Alex and a new host, Leslie, did a live draft on DraftKings. So that was a lot of fun. Yahoo, sponsor for this show. They also have best ball. I think FanDuel just dropped their best ball. Yep. Is it Underdog Fantasy? There's a new one that seemingly everybody that's ever worked in the DFS industry somehow is an investor or an owner in that, but that one's out there, brought to you by the minds that brought you Draft. And then managed to launch a new site, great product, before FanDuel got off their ass and launched it, even though they bought Draft. I still don't know how that works.
That makes a lot of sense.
FanDuel never change. So yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be any weather issues. I am going to get to the live lineups page here, and we are going to say a 1, 2, 3, go. 6 games, 7:05 lock. We have plenty of time here. Pitching, there's a good one, but he might be on the trading block. That would be Dylan Bundy. He's coming in that sort of essentially the late night hammer there against with the Mariners game. So interesting to see what he's going to do. And then we've got question marks everywhere. The pitcher, there's been a pitching change in Coors Field. This should not dramatically change things. Slated was going to be rookie Adrian Morejon, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, he's from Cuba. So I'm guessing there's some sort of accent or pronunciation.
Just put a little something on the end.
Lo siento, mi amigo, if I got it wrong. But he was going to go about 35, 40 pitches is all he had done. He's a really young kid. He had poked around in the minor, but never really been above AA. He'd great strikeout stuff. But he has his 2 appearances up here in the show were like an inning and change, and I think the most he had was like 38 pitches. So I had said, I'll probably get 40, 45, and then I said I'm guessing we'd see righties out of the lineup, Javi Guerra or Miguel Baez. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's Michael, Michelle, who knows?
Don't know.
This Baez fella,
but he's starting now, so yeah.
So yeah, he's starting now, and they're supposed to be going with a bullpen game overall. I was a little concerned with Morejon's stuff coming into this spot anyway. He's a sinker baller, and that pitch just doesn't really play well at Coors Field. So especially for a rookie, really not there yet, kid who hasn't pitched above AA really, I was concerned for the spot for him. So just if we want to jump down to that game, we can hit that now. Michelle, why isn't he popping up here? I opened the wrong one. Well, Michelle's nothing to really write home about either. Yeah, I opened the wrong one here. Apologies that I don't have the data up on him. Let me see if I can pull it up over in this window. But I looked him up before the show. There really wasn't much. What I wanted to give you guys was the rankings on the San Diego bullpen, because just looking through bullpen stats, they were in basically they were sitting like 24th overall out of the 30 teams in strikeout rates. They were doing all right. They were like 11% in walk rate, but they were around 24th in xFIP for the season, and a couple other, the categories that we really care about. So it's a targetable bullpen, and it's going to be a bullpen game. So once they get this kid out of the way, who again was nothing special, I just opened the wrong file without my notes in it. This is what I get for changing from handwriting my notes out to typing them. Now I'm opening the wrong file and not having everything. So I think we can definitely target some of those Rockies bats. I liked them before the pitching change, and I think I like them even better
now. Most definitely. I do want to say we are going to go live here with the tweet, so I'm going to ask people to retweet this, because that'll be fun. But we'll have some fun with that. Let's jump back to our beginning games. Go with a little organization here. Sorry, I got carried away, and we're off the rails already. So let's talk Ross Stripling, Lance Lynn. Roof is going to be closed in Texas. We know that is seemingly a pitcher's park now. Very, or at least not hitter's paradise. The 3.9 implied run total there for the Rangers is partly because they are incredibly bad, and I think it's because of the Dodgers bullpen, because I certainly don't know what to do with Ross Stripling. 8,400 seems like a pretty spendy amount to pay for him on DK as a second pitcher, let alone a lead pitcher. He has gone 64, 69, 70, and 92 pitches in his last 4 starts, reverse chronological order there. He has allowed multiple home runs in his last 3 games. That is not good. I'm not feeling great about him, but we only have 12 pitchers, and we already know there's some openers, and I'm really not thrilled with the guys in Colorado. So I'm probably, because there are 12 pitchers, he's going to be like a 15 to 20% guy for me tonight. I don't know where that's going to come with my projections and where everything moves in for this, but we shall see. What do you want to do with Stripling? Because we're gonna have to suss out some pitching to go along with Bundy. Hoping Bundy doesn't get traded before his start.
Yeah, God, that would just wipe out the entire slate. I didn't even really consider that too much in putting stuff together today. That's a great point to watch out for. Let him make one more. So Stripling, I think you're right. I think you're going to have to get to him on the two pitcher sites. I'm not really excited about him. I'm not getting a great projection on him. I think you're right. The low implied total is probably more to do with the Dynamite Dodgers bullpen. Those guys are just lights out for most of the season. So I think Stripling, he's not a guy I typically really target very much, but if you're going to do it, I think maybe with right-handed bats in this lineup and then add Joey Gallo in there because he hits home runs against anybody. For his career, Stripling's 150 home run per nine to right-handed hitters. Is in 286 innings as a starter. He's got a 3.89 ERA, pretty good, 22.9% strikeout rate, and a 145 home run per nine overall. So it does allow some home runs. And like I said, you can target him with some of that right-handed power. So maybe like a Todd Frazier in there. If you want to get cute, Robinson Chirinos is right-handed, a catcher on DK, and very inexpensive, very underowned. So, Nick Solak up at the top hitting second is probably more part of the stack there. So that's kind of what I would do with the Rangers. And I think you're right. Probably you might even have to go 25, 30% with Stripling over on DK today, despite the 8,400 for a pitcher I don't really get a good projection on. I think it's just where we're at.
All right. On the other side, Lance Lynn, I'm going to give him sort of the same treatment. That's more of a function of going against a tough Dodger lineup. The implied run total not really in his favor, 4.7. But again, we're just looking for guys that are gonna scratch out, 4, 5, 6 innings. And at 9,200, I really, really need him to go 6, give up a couple runs, and get some strikeouts. Strikeouts have really been there for him this season. And that's something that's a big improvement. He has 50 in his 45 innings. He has allowed 5 home runs, but he's done a reasonably good job allowing 0.3 walks per inning. So he's good. I would love to see about a $1,500 discount off of this because they've done a good job. All the sites did a good job, including FanDuel, of pricing up the key Coors Field hitters tonight. So we're going to make some decision points here. He's close enough that if I'm only making a handful of lineups, I want to go to Bundy. But I'm making 150 tonight, so I will be going with Lance Lynn. Again, 1.6 ERA, 0.9 whip, 50 strikeouts in those 45 innings. That's pretty awesome. Does this temper your Dodgers expectations, maybe, with the potential pitching park in Texas now?
A little bit more on the other side, I think. I think you're right. You're going to have to roll Lynn out on the two pitcher sites for sure. He's a pitcher I normally like to get to, and I'm not really loving him here on FanDuel today. Just looking at the Dodgers in overall team stats, only striking out as a team 20% of the time, just really crushing it 15% as a team over league average in weighted runs created, 47.9 hard hit rate, leads the slate right now. So just they do everything well offensively. So this is a Dodgers lineup, and they kind of loaded the lineup with left-handed hitters today. So this is a Dodgers lineup I like a lot. I like to get to them. We've talked about it a couple times before. Their pricing is keeping them down in terms of ownership on primarily on DraftKings, and really the matchup today is keeping them, I think, underowned on FanDuel. So taking everything off the table, salary, matchup, everything, and only thinking about ownership. If I told you at the beginning of the year you have to play the Dodgers every single day of the season, but most of the time you could have them at about half of what they're supposed to be owned, you would sign up for that at the beginning of the season. They're going to be one of the best offensive teams in baseball. They're doing that. They are probably the best offensive team in baseball. So I think we can go with that. I do like Lynn, like I've said, as a pitcher in general. Excellent StatCast numbers so far this year. He's 84th percentile in xWOBA, 85th percentile in xERA, keeping the ball in the yard, limiting hard hit at 54th percentile is a little above league average, just doing really well. 14.8% sinker usage inside of his overall 71% what they count as a fastball, getting 33% whiff on his curve, 26% whiff on his four-seamer. It's a very heavy seam fastball, really changes the eye level, plays really well off of his other stuff. So very good pitcher. I could see him putting up a good start here and striking out a lot of these hitters, but I prefer the Dodgers side of it in general.
All right, on to the next one here. And assuming we don't stumble too much, we can or go down too many rabbit holes, we can have some questions at the end. We've got JT Brubaker going against the Brew Crew. This is one that I wrote up in Spotlight Hitters and Stacks. I wanted to point out that Brubaker, who was selected in the 6th round of the 2015 draft, he played for the Akron Zips, University of Akron, in college 3 years before being drafted. 6.3 Ks in, what are they, the Mid-American Conference or the MAC, I think. Almost 4 walks per 9. Not great. He only allowed 8 home runs in 224 college innings, though, right? So that's pretty good. He faced these guys 5 days ago. In his last start against them, he had 4 innings, 1 walk, 4 hits, did get 6 strikeouts, which is surprising because his strikeouts are in the minors were basically 7 per inning, and the walks have gone down a little bit, and he's not really allowing a lot of power. But I still want to go with the Brewers on this one. It looks like the roof will be open. We have a 10-mile-an-hour breeze headed out towards center field. Reminder, they do have a roof, so it's not quite the wind you would see in a completely open-air stadium, because they do have all those other structures there, but that is a positive. It's going to be in the mid-70s. We like to see that. The cheapie I like is Omar Narvaez. Has been crappy this year. He was phenomenal as the lefty side of the platoon last year with Tom Murphy for the Mariners. He does have 4 extra base hits in his last 31 at bats, 2 doubles, 2 home runs. So I like him where we need a catcher. And then Yelich and Smoke, of course, are completely fine. Do you like anybody else on this lineup, knowing how little power Brubaker actually gives up?
Yeah, that's the one thing with Brubaker is, like you mentioned, he's limiting the home runs. I think he's only allowed 1 home run so far this year in 15 innings in over 3 starts, 5 games, 5 appearances, striking out 23.5% of hitters. Throws a hard, heavy sinker 38% of the time. It's a 94-mile-an-hour turbo sinker, so very heavy spin rate on his curve. Gets 50% whiff on 37 curveballs that he's thrown, 34.2 on 90 sliders that he's thrown, and he's allowing a 198 xISO on his sinker. So he really is limiting power specifically on that sinker ball. I do like the Brewer side of this, but I want to deploy it a little bit carefully, and they do look like they're getting a lot of ownership against him here. So that would be a little bit of a concern for me, but ultimately I think it's a team we can get to, and it's a 6-game slate, so we got to get our offense somewhere. This is one of the better lineups available. I like all 3 of the guys that you named. I think Narvaez, if I'm remembering from just when I was building a Yahoo lineup earlier too, is very cheap over there. I think he was like all the way down the bottom of salary. So getting decent ownership at only 3,000 on DraftKings, bare minimum price on FanDuel if you want to work him in. I don't hate it as a first base differentiator over there. I think we can play some Ryan Braun here, drawing very, very little ownership on DK, 4,200, only 2,800 on FanDuel. I don't hate mixing in some Ryan Braun. He's not the old Ryan Braun by any means, hitting 197, 246, 377 this year. Only 4 home runs, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs. So, not the player he was, but if you want to mix him in, fine. Maybe like a Ben Gamel, frustrating Eric Sogard. You pick off a couple base hits, maybe a double. Not big-time power guys, not big-time options for me on the back end of the stack. So it's a top-heavy stack for me on this one.
All right. I am going to ask a favor here. I'm going to give you guys this tweet. I want to see if we can get some more people watching us. I think that'll be fun. We've worked hard. We would like to get a little love. The basketball shows tend to get most of the love, but I'm going to send this out. We're going to have T. McBee is going to retweet it, and I would like to ask you guys to retweet it. So that's my favorite for tonight.
Tweeter machine right now.
And that looks good. Launch that. Now I will view said tweet. I will copy it. I'm going to put that in the Slack chat. So if you guys can retweet that or like that, we would appreciate it. Coming to you here on a Saturday night.
Kick that thing out. Hit that thumbs up. Kick that thing out. And then should we talk about Brett Anderson?
I think we need to talk about Brett Anderson. Brett Anderson, who doesn't really get blown up very often.
Yeah.
Gives up the home runs here and there, but is solid. He's going to be a cog in the machine tonight for my lineups, which is not something I'm thrilled to say, but I'm okay with it. He is 6,400. He's going to be 25% owned. I'm probably going to go 40 with it.
Yeah, I think he's going to be probably more important to me than a cog in the machine. I mean, cogs are very important in machines, but my gosh, I'm getting a big projection on him on FanDuel and very surprised by it. It's not something I usually get for him. entirely matchup based against this lowly Pirates lineup here. So I think he's going to put up a pretty decent start, or I'm going to be hurting in my lineups tonight. 8,000 on FanDuel, tough price to pay. Like him a lot better as an SP2 at 6,400 on DK. He's in my DK placeholder lineup right now. I think I'm just going to leave that alone. By the way, there are some great options to put together that Dodgers stack on DK despite the pricing. I wrote about it today. You guys should check that out. Mix and match some of those Dodgers bats. We'll get to it, but that was the lineup I built. Used Brett Anderson in it. I think I can't get away from him against this lineup. Overall, he's 16.2% strikeout for his career, only 6.3% walk. Limits the home run, 0.90 home run per 9 for his career. That was slightly up over the last 2 years to 112, 102, but nothing to really worry about there. So far, he's 157 because he's allowed 4 home runs in 23 innings this year, but it's a very small sample size. Home runs are funky. 4.17 xFIP, bumpy quality contact numbers. He's in the 32nd percentile on exit velo allowed, third percentile on hard hit rate allowed, 25th in xWOBA. So it's dicey. It's definitely dicey, but he's coming up good, and I think I'm going to roll it out.
All right. God, I love hate baseball so much. It's good. Anything else you want to hit on from this one?
No, I'm not in love with anything from the Pirates, really. If I'm rolling that much Anderson out, I might throw just a couple Pirate stacks in there to protect myself against it on the other side. And I would focus primarily on the obvious guys with that. They're not going to be owned, so you don't really have to worry. But grab a Newman, a Bell, Brian Reynolds, and a Frazier, something like that. They'll form in. But that would be it. There's nothing I'm really focused on in that lineup.
Yeah, it's more of a 2-mans and 3-mans than a full stack, in my opinion, just because of how much is limited, or how much power.
That makes a lot of sense.
Gets limited there by our buddy Brett Anderson. All right, let's hit our next one here. Go ahead and hit that like button, and we'll have some fun. Jason Kelly says, Emac, I'm going to go with Cahill and Anderson, and then pray we can travel back to 2013. It's viable. I'll allow it. Game 3. We have Anibal Sanchez, Chris Mazza. We've got nearly a 12 implied run total here. Little bit of rain in the forecast. Little sprinkles here and there. I still want to target this game pretty heavily. We have Anibal Sanchez. Did he? Yeah, it is Sanchez. And Chris Mazza tonight. Sanchez feels like he pitches every third day for the Nationals, giving up a tremendous amount of power. And that's something that is not good. This is a big change in what he has done, sort of reinventing himself over the last couple years with with Detroit and the Braves and etc. Just a dangerous spot. I believe you have something to say here about the Bo Sox.
Yeah, I definitely want to throw some Red Sox at him. I think it's a very good stack. Wrote them up overnight last night, and definitely really like the spot. JD Martinez was my home run pick, and getting a very nice mark on him. And what I love on FanDuel in particular is they're just so cheap. You're getting still a good offense up top, especially. 3,000 for Verdugo, 3,400 for Rafael Devers is just broken. Take advantage of that price. 3,400 on FanDuel, 49 on DK. 3,400 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DK for JD Martinez. Take advantage on the blue side, guys. These guys are underpriced. Xander Bogaerts, 3,400 also. So all three of those guys, I mean, that's ridiculous. Jump on that. I like Anibal here and there, but not when he's facing a good team. Like we got a good start out of him against Miami the last time out. That's kind of the pitcher he is. You can target him a little bit when he's cheap and going up against a bad team. I don't really want to roll him out very much against the Red Sox. 7,100 on DK, maybe you can do it a little bit here and there as an SP2, fine. 66 on FanDuel, very, very limited amount if you're going to do it. I really like the Sox bats here. Like you mentioned, the last 2 years he was doing a good job limiting quality contact, and it's gone completely the other way this year. So far in 2020, what I've identified is he's at a career low 33% ground ball rate. Typically, he's in like the low 40s, so he's not like a great ground ball guy who has to rely on that. But if he's giving up more fly balls, that explains why some leaving the yard, more of them are going for gap power and stuff. So something to keep an eye on. He limits left-handed power a little bit, only 0.84 home run per nine to lefties for his career. So something to maybe keep an eye on with the Verdugos and Devers of the world, the Mitch Morelands. But I like all three of those guys here, particularly Devers and Moreland and their upside to potentially hit one out against them. So I would be loading up on the Red Sox, particularly without the rain in the forecast. Hopefully that holds. That was really my only concern about going to them.
Yeah, and then on the other side, the Nationals, pesky, I guess, is the appropriate thing we can say for them. They're starting to run a little bit. Remember, this was an abbreviated season. We've seen Trey Turner hurt his hand, hurt other things, and he's a phenomenal base stealer. But in a season this short, I think they've been more or less just limiting his running just to keep him healthy. But we're frighteningly enough kind of in that do or die phase of it's time to win or be in big trouble, and that's the Nats really need to step up their game. And sorry, my computer screen just froze here. So, but that's something I feel a little more comfortable with, that they're going to unleash him somewhat. So I would give some consideration to him running more, even though he only has 3 steals on the season. From that standpoint, Luis Soto still phenomenal as always. Anybody jumping out to you in this one?
Yeah, and the Nats, I like the Nats side of things. Like you were saying, I think they are going to run again, run a lot more anyway, and start again. It's not necessarily something I would sign off on just from a baseball strategy point of view. Stolen bases a little bit overrated from a baseball point of view, but I think that is what they're going to lean into because it's something they do very well on this team. You get guys like Turner gets on base around 38% of the time and has stolen upwards of 40 bags, I think, each of the last 3 years running. So dynamite stolen base option, can hit the ball out of the park, 6 home runs so far this year. Love Turner up top, Juan Soto, like you mentioned. Howie Kendrick gets most of his career quality against lefty hitters, but he's fine against righties too, so I don't really mind that. At 2,700 on FanDuel, he's definitely in play. 3,800 on DraftKings at 21% ownership. I don't hate skipping over Howie just to make your lineup different if you're building a Nat stack up top and maybe popping in Asdrubal Cabrera, who's more expensive but lower owned in that hitting after him, hitting cleanup here. I like Adam Eaton in the outfield. Kurt Suzuki's a very good catcher option, drawing some ownership, but not tragic. You can use him. That's a pitcher price. For some reason, I'm pulling Luis Garcia's pitcher price, and I was wondering why he was 5,500 on FanDuel. So, yeah, the other guy I would mention down there, big lefty bat, and Eric Dames, 2,300 on FanDuel. Not drawing much ownership, but actually not drawing much ownership on DK, is drawing some ownership on FanDuel. But just a big thumper of a bat down there, 217 projected ISO on the season. Hasn't really delivered much this year, only 1 home run, but he hit that 1 home run on a day that I talked about him. So
hey,
we'll make it 2 for 2.
Ryan Braun scratched.
Forget what I said about Ryan Braun.
Jace Peterson will be the new guy. Make sure
minor ding to that Brewer stack.
Have any Ryan Braun thus far? Okay, I've done my DK tiers. Now we're on to the main slate, so we're gonna have some fun here. Which games? We're not gonna do that. All right, on to our next. Oops, too many things. Oh, someone was asking how do we find bullpen stats? So I utilize FanGraphs. You can choose pitching by team. And then you can choose starters or relievers. It's another option. And then you can do all sorts of splits: handedness, home, away, various points by month, etc. So that's something that's pretty useful. So if you just run the whole thing by teams, you can get everybody. If you click the active, it'll give you the people that are on their active roster, and then that also gives you their stats going backwards, so you can kind of see how that collection of people has done over the last few years. If you don't click that, you're going to get whoever has played for them, but only while they've played for them. So that little checkbox is very important. And if you have FanGraphs, you will find that it's they get you with a lot of ads, which is totally fine. But if you do their little subscription, which I don't know, works out to like couple bucks a month or $50 a year,
worth it.
it was so worth it to me. I was paying two at the same time, not realizing I had two accounts over there. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. So I like to look at that a lot, and that's where I source most of my information. When you're starting to look into other stuff, you want to find the ex-WOBA. You want to find different pitching metrics and things. You can go to Brooks Baseball. You can go to StatCast. You can go to Add More Funds. There's a variety of sites that curate this information for you. MLB is kind of... there's no one great place to get all of them how I would want them, which is frustrating. But we bring a lot of it into Excel and just make it do what we want when we're doing these shows, or at least I do anyway. In most seasons, so that's kind of how I do it. Is that what you kind of use? Baseball Reference, another great source.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think every site you named, plus I think team rankings and maybe one or two more are baked into my.
Use team rankings for football more than anything else because it has some nice team how they do percentages of runs and stuff like that. I don't use it as much for baseball.
Yeah. There's only I think one thing that I pull from it. And I really can't remember what it is, but out of all those sites, FanGraphs to me is the deepest, the best, and it's a community-driven site. So. Like you were saying, if anybody out there has won money off of what we're doing, throw $50 toward FanGraphs. Even if you're not going to it, that's where we're getting most of our data. That's what feeds my model. I'm confident it's what feeds Alex's. I know it's what feeds Josh's. So if you guys are getting good stuff from us or from anybody in the industry, really, toss $50 their way. It's well worth it. And after you subscribe at our site and everything, of course, and all of our sponsors.
All right.
Free plug. They deserve it.
Someone was asking... Fantasy Schmabs is a good place to find scratches for all sports. You can look at RotoWorld. They're a tick slower, and there's a few other push notification sites. But for those of you that said I can't find Ryan Braun scratched anywhere, it's posted. Granted, that is 3 and 4 minutes old, but it's posted in a few different spots right now. So just don't trust what they say on DraftKings, FanDuel, etc. Always verify it. They're going to be a little slower there because they got other things they're doing, and that's like the one last tiny. I think they aren't going super instantaneous because that may be the one last tiny little bit of edge that's out there. But for those that are willing to put in a little sweat equity, but frankly, God, when I first started, we used to not have starting lineups confirmed when I started DFS baseball. So if you knew who was a platoon hitter, you had a huge advantage.
right. Yep. I actually remember that. God. Yeah, that was a big hit when they added those little lineup numbers.
I'm good with
starting
it.
Who's going to be?
I'm actually good with it now. It just makes things easier and faster.
Yeah. I understand it. Let's put it that way.
I was annoyed in the beginning, but I understand. I'm good with it.
Yeah, but you guys out there, you can rely on the fact that our news god is checking this information. He's not providing it from weak sources. And just in general, when you're getting news, don't rely on the intern at FanDuel or DraftKings who is responsible for putting this stuff in every now and then when they happen to see it. Rely on people who are paid to distribute that news, the beat writers, our people from some of these other sites. That's where you need to get your info. So don't worry about what FanDuel or DraftKings says. Go to the professionals.
All right, I'm going to add my second soda here, but let's kick you off on the next game. The Pod Squad looks phenomenal tonight. I love the fact that Fernando Tatis is 6,100 on DraftKings. Really going to make people think. I'm good with that. Your discount dandies here, Greg Garcia, 2,600. Greg, all glove, no bat Garcia. I'm still good with it. Josh Naylor batting 8th. I'm fine with that. Josh Fuentes on the other side, 2K, minimum priced on DK. When do we get minimum priced Coors Field in DK? Never. But you got Matt Kemp batting 5th. DH, which is perfect for him, 2,900. There's some cheapies here that'll allow us to get in the Stories, the Arenados, the Blackmans. They're all put up at nice price points. I'm sad they missed on a few of these, but I'm still good here. I'm still good. And SJM says fade soda. Hey, I've cut out my morning sodas and I drink iced coffee now. I don't like anything hot, so this thing called cold brew, basically like you put the old tea bags in it. You do that with coffee now, and then just keep it in the fridge, and I just pour it over ice, and I just add like just a splat, like not even measurable amount of creamer. Which my wife is like, why do you even put that in? You you don't even put enough that you should be able to taste it. I'm like, oh, but I can taste
it. I'm the exact same way. I just finished this cup of coffee, but I'm the same way. I tell the people at the bakery or whatever, a drop of milk. Just I don't even want it to change color. I just want to know that it's in there. I can taste it. I assure you. No sugar. You go for sugar-free sodas? What are you drinking there? Drink. Whoop. Did you mute?
Wait, yes, Diet Pepsi. That's
Diet Pepsi. Okay. I didn't hear you there for a second.
But take it away here. Let's start off with going against one Mr. Senzatella.
I think, look, you said it all. I think we can hammer the Padres here against Senzatella. He's not a pitcher that's really of very high quality at all. Pull him up here. Sitting 50th percentile exactly in exit velo allowed, and that's his best number in StatCast. 37th percentile hard hit rate, 46th percentile xWOBA, 49th percentile barrels, only the 18th percentile in strikeout rate. So he doesn't sit anybody down, doesn't generate a lot of whiffs. 16.1% strikeout rate on his career, 8.3% walks, 1.24 home run per 9. So he allows some home runs. He's 43% whiff on 53 curveballs this year, but the pitch doesn't play well at Coors, so he doesn't really throw it very much at home. I think we can definitely target him here with some bats. They're going to be the top stack options, but I never really like to consider a pitcher in terms of, well, that's going to be popular bats. Let's roll out some of the pitcher. Doesn't really work that way in baseball. So I'm pretty much full fade Senzatella, full fade Baez, and focus on the bats here at Coors.
Yeah, there's no reason to not do it. Tiny bit of weather risk, but we saw they're and you even said it. They've played through some there's crazy weather in Denver. There literally is. One of the issues we see is while we do, remember we've seen some hailstorms and just all kinds of weirdness. The other thing that happens is because it's in that, I'm going to say it wrong and I'm sorry, I haven't been there forever, but it's like in a valley, even though it's a freaking mile high. But the storms, they're always kind of around Denver proper, but they don't always get there. And when they do, a lot of times we just get glancing blows from it. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those where, like, even if you're watching the radar, it's like, we know that's not going to happen because there's some localized wind pattern or something that just, for whatever reason, usually when it gets to the stadium, it's not enough to cancel. They're not on the same streak like San Diego, where they have one rain out every 17 years. But it's not as bad for the number of times we chew our fingernails and say, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" It doesn't usually crap out that much. Now watch tonight will be the one storm in the middle of nowhere that sits right over second base. So.
Record amount of rain in Colorado tonight. So, yeah, I think, looking at the lineups, you mentioned Kemp, and, I wish I'd seen him 3,500, 3,600 on DK. That's a misprice, and he's getting a lot of ownership over there. The ownership on McMahon's not popping up, but he's a bat I usually like to get to. 4,500, maybe keep some people off of him back on the back end of this lineup. Earlier in the day, they were drawing less ownership than they should have been. Just taking a peek. Yeah, it kind of corrected on DraftKings. They're up, but on FanDuel, they're still, as of my last update, drawing a little bit less ownership, both of these teams, than they quote-unquote should be, given their probability of being the top stack. So we can lean into Coors a little bit today if that holds over the next half hour or so.
Kuzi Sean says it best. I'm in Denver, love it. It's like there's a force field surrounding Denver. Yes, snow. Sorry, you're gonna get the snow, but the other weather, it's crazy. It's crazy. I've been there a few times, got to have some fun. Been to 2 different trips. I went out to the stadium there. Gorgeous stadium.
Oh, nice.
So it's a good time. Hey, do you have a good way to look up pitcher strikeout props? Because I've got a good way here. This is a little thing called Odd Shopper. We have this at Awesemo. So if you go to Awesemo.com, look up at the top, you're going to see all sorts of cool new headers up there. You're going to see fantasy football. Yeah, we have season-long and draft content. Check that out. We've got the Awesemo Odds, which is different from the Odd Shopper, but we go through a whole bunch of betting stuff. We've got the Awesemo Podcast Network now, We've got all sorts. We've got NFL stuff going out on podcasts right now that people are not aware of. Go check that out. But OddsShopper, what it does is it's an aggregate site, right? So we take from 6 different, so Sugar House, BetRivers, BetMGM, FanDuel, DK, and PointsBet. We'll take information from there, tell you what the odds are, what the best prices are for you to go wager on them. If you're in a state where this is legal, all of them, we have little carrots that we get if you sign up through us, and then you get a nice little carrot. Some of these are guaranteed bets, no lose first bet. They give you insane point spreads, whatever it is. So there's a lot of reason to be keeping an eye out on these different things. But it's a nice way to look at strikeout props, assist prop, rebound prop, point props, and that's something that Alex factors into a lot of his projection models. I'm going to drop the link here to the pictures here, but it's something that's definitely worthwhile. But if you go look at Awesemo odds, there's some free bet articles each day. They have the DGen bet of the day by that comes out. A couple different people write that. We've got Jazzraz Ben Raza is putting stuff out there, and by the way, he's a guy you want to listen to, because before he really kind of got into DFS, he was doing some poker, but before his mainstay, his parents were bringing him to the track when he was 3. He could read a racing form like you and I know the alphabet. So he has the coolest job ever. He's a sports bettor.
Not bad.
Then he did DFS, and then he did some content. So sharp guy. I laugh when I find out he's like, oh yeah, I was a financial analyst. I did that for a couple years, and yeah, no, I don't want to work for anybody. So yeah, how cool is that? He bets on college sports, pro sports, soccer that may or may not be professional. Some of the leagues he bets on, I swear they're not getting paid. And they're in the middle of nowhere. But he's heading up a lot of that content. And we've got a bunch of new guys that are over that specialize in that. So they're providing the content on that side. You'll see a few of us cross over into that, but most of us that are on DFS kind of stay on the DFS side. But check that out. It's definitely, there's a lot of cool things there, especially coming in for football.
Yeah, that's a great way to check props, like you were saying at the beginning. I mean, it's just something that's an easy tiebreaker for me. If you're looking between 2 pitchers, who do I go to? Check what Vegas thinks on the strikeouts. That's it's just a nice, easy little tiebreaker you can go to and help you make your decisions. So, and that's a really great site to boil it down. It's really, really helpful.
All right, on to our next one. So play Coors Field more so than normal. This is going to be one of those Coors Field nights. If you're playing some of your sites, careful about your player pool. They are going to have that Oakland and Houston game in them. On DK, they're in a few of their player pools. They're not actually getting points. So you're going to want to be keeping an eye on that. Here we go. If you are playing NHL, we have... this tweet is in French. Come on. Translate that for me, Nolan. So it sounds like Raphael is out and Lofton is in. Don't know what that means, but I have some lineups here, so I'm going to go check that out. For
Sounds
hockey. There are not many. You know how I said there's a bunch of sites that push out hockey news or lots of news? Nobody pushes out hockey news. That's in our Slack chat. That saved me more than once, because even though they're in the bubble and they really don't have sports coverage and there's really nothing else to do, we still don't know who the starting goalie is half the time. Now we're in the playoffs. They've had a few days off. Today's pretty obvious who it's going to be, but we've been caught unawares multiple times here, and they basically, in prior years, it was hockey injuries were upper body or lower body. Gee, thanks. Now there's not even that. There's just not playing.
Body.
Yeah, it's like
injury. Body.
Yeah, it's like if you had a concussion, that was an upper body injury. If you had a torn rotator cuff in your shoulder, that also was an upper body injury. So they're archaic, but they don't ever announce starting goalies because it's tradition that whichever goalie leads them off the ice in morning skate is usually the one who's going to start. Great. They don't have all the beat writers at morning skate anymore because they're in the bubble. It's a problem.
Wasn't that exact edge we were talking about before with not knowing the starting hitters?
Absolutely.
There we go.
So check that out. All right, 2 games to go. Somehow we were going to make 6 game stretch into an hour. We just got the Mariners lineup, or we're going to talk about San Francisco at Arizona. I thought the roof was going to be closed. I'm seeing conflicting. I will say I'm going to drop this link in chat because this is really good. So this is where it's the only one that really has a good roof source. So the roof is going to be open today. It will be closed tomorrow for the day game. It was open last night, but they tell you for the whole series what they're going to do, and rarely do they deviate from it in Arizona. And this is on the MLB.com page. So check that out, but it is open tonight. That changes things a little bit. They still have the humidor, but it's not the pitcher's park. It is when the roof is open because it's 103 degrees right now. It also is not the hitter's paradise, but it's definitely making me a little more concerned because Mr. Weaver is someone I think that was on my short list. That would be Luke Weaver. I'm a little nervous now. Now the San Francisco Giants still have a 4.4 implied run total, so that's pretty low. I want somebody to pair with Bundy. Weaver at 7,600 was looking like a smooth play. He's still going to be my number 2 pitcher on this slate based on opponent. I don't feel as great about it now, but I'm still going there. It's not changing the amount of that he's going to be in my lineups. He's just, I don't have the confidence I had when I thought the roof was going to be.
Yeah, and it's another little tick against him. I was getting somewhat decent projections on the Giants. Their home run marks are up because he's yielded some home runs so far this year.
Yes.
I really like his price at 7,100 on FanDuel, and I was expecting to get to a lot of them. Drawing an okay projection on him, so it's kind of a both side spot for me. I expect to have a fair amount of Weaver going against what is not a good lineup, but I expect to have a pretty big amount of Giants, to be honest, and I wrote them up in Stacks Lance this afternoon. They were under-owned and right about in the middle of the top stacks ranking on both sites. So I really think we can get to some Giants, and they just make everything work. They were the team that I stacked with Dodgers on DraftKings to reveal a little what I was doing over there. So I really think you can do a lot of special things with them. They've got Yaz is the only hitter above 5K at 5,300, which is
my favorite, though.
Price tag. Yeah, he looks good. He's my highest projected individual Giant. He's got the third highest home run rating in my model on the team. But that's a big price tag to pay for Yaz. He's only going to be about 3% owned on DK, 3,900 on FanDuel, so pricey over there as well. But everyone else in this lineup is 3,200 for Dickerson, 3,800 for Longo, 35 for Belt on DK. I like that as just a straight line. You get way cheaper on the back end of the lineup. All those guys are in around the same price, but reduced on for the relativity on FanDuel. Again, going very low owned. So I like working with like a Belt, a Longoria, Yaz, Dickerson kind of a stack. Wilmer loses a little bit of his quality in not facing a lefty hitter. I think it was like 5 out of his 7 home runs this year against lefties. We know that about Wilmer, but he's fine. You can work him in. He's not expensive, multi-position eligibility over on DK. So on the Weaver side of things, he improved over his last 2 starts, but he still hasn't gotten through the 6th inning, so he hasn't gotten us that quality start bonus on FanDuel even when he's been good. 3 straight games earlier in the year with 2 home runs allowed in each, 1 home run allowed last time out, allowing just way too much quality contact. 24th percentile in exit velo, 9th percentile in hard hit rate, 6th percentile in barrels. That's either a 6 or an 8. I can't read it from here, but same thing. So just too much quality contact against. He's not going to be tremendously high owned, 15% on FanDuel. I think we can get over that comfortably at that price still. It's still a good matchup, but I'm not as excited about it as I thought I would be, or as I would have been on Weaver a few weeks ago in this spot.
Yeah, and it's a good point. In chat, I see him saying, "Oh, don't look at Weaver's numbers. Don't feel good about them." I don't, but it's the price, and I want to pay for those 5,000 plus guys in Coors Field because I'm hoping people aren't going to get there. And it's his price as an SP2 if I'm trying to get Bundy in as well and not get too many of the obvious, hey, we've got minimum price guys in Coors Field on DraftKings tonight. Guys, as we turn the Rubik's Cube, that's how it's going to work out here for me. So totally agree. The pucker factor is going to be high if you were playing Luke Weaver.
Yeah,
But
if you want to get to some of those Dodgers, some of those Coors bats, like you're saying, and not play just the garbage at the bottom, then yeah, you've got to make some tough decisions with your pitching, and you've got to swallow a little bit of medicine with your pitching. And I think Weaver's the best option from that group of guys. He's the one I trust the most for sure. So I think he's definitely the move in that regard as far as being able to build those things in. So I'm all over it.
All right. I forgot I got to go look at my NHL lineup. So let's get looking at the next game here. Hey, by the grace of God, we have both starting lineups. Justice Sheffield going against the Halos. We've got Otani, Trout, Rendon. They're all good against lefties. Upton, I think he's earned his $2,300 price tag. You may want to be under the field on that one because he has just been, what's the technical term? Ass for the last 2 years. Joe Adell, great prospect. Not really done much. But those are your cheapies. They're extremely cheap. And Sheffield actually been decent. I believe he came over as part of the James Paxton trade for the Mariners. I should have worn my Mariners shirt over my hat tonight. I did not. We've got on the other side Dylan Bundy, who is my number one pitcher and everyone's number one pitcher of the night. Mariners completely smoke and mirrors. They're scaring us because somehow they're hitting home runs from time to time, and what is it called? Hit sequencing. They're getting lucky on their run production and their hits coming when guys are in scoring position, etc., etc. Go look just the names of this lineup. J.P. Crawford, okay, solid. Sam Haggerty, who? Kyle Lewis, okay, been injured forever, had like every joint operated on. Solid. What is he still? Less than, I think, 300 or 400 major league at bats. Kyle Seager, 32, feels like he's 36. Austin Nola, Aaron's brother, he must be good. Yeah, he made his debut last year at 29. Jose Marmolejos, Tim Lopes, Shed Long, Jake Fraley. Yeah, Dylan Bundy. All in 60% tonight for me. I hate to say that.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. I think that's appropriate. I love the price at 91 on FanDuel. It would definitely be above his 38.5% ownership, even on the one-pitcher site. I would be pushing 50%. Do not hate it at all. I think he's by far the best pitcher in the best spot right here. So far, he hasn't been traded, I'm assuming. So, against the list of players that you just read off that sounds like the extras from Major League, Tomlinson and stuff, I am not worried about him here. There's always the chance that they get to him. There's always the chance they blow him up, but he's just pitching really, really well so far this year. He's sitting 80th percentile in exit velo allowed, 92nd in hard hit, 81st in xwOBA. He's avoiding barrels. He's just doing everything right. It looks like he's made some changes with his repertoire. He's throwing he's brought his four-seamer usage down, only 29.6% four-seamers these days, and he's throwing his slider more. His slider was 22%, now he's throwing it around 29% of the time, and it's a great whiff pitch for him. He's got 53.7% whiff on that slider in over 167 of them that he's thrown so far this year. So just a great pitch for him. He's using it a lot more, and I think that's where some of the difference we're seeing is coming from. So it's very real. It's something that we can point to, and I always like that when there's a discernible change that a guy's made, as opposed to just things happen to be working. So I think we can rely on Dylan Bundy here, and I would roll him out with confidence. Not going to be getting to too many Mariners because of that. I think the Angels' bats are in play on the other side. Sheffield's been pitching well too, though. He's been showing some decent quality. 20.5% strikeouts so far for his young career. Only 25.2 innings pitched in 2020, but he's allowed 0 home runs so far, limiting power. This is a lineup where some of those bats that we talked about, the Justin Uptons, the Joe Adells, especially those cheap bats, the only thing they're going to do is hit the occasional home run. So against a guy who's been limiting power and been pretty good at it, that's not bad. It's interesting that he's limiting the home run, though, and he's been doing it, it seems like, by avoiding barrels. Because his hard hit rate and his exit velocity, he's down in toward the bottom quarter of the league anyway. So that's something to keep an eye on, something interesting there. Getting 30% whiff on his slider. He's drawing a 48.7% ground ball rate. So a guy who keeps the ball on the ground, that's what helps him limit the home run ball. But a guy I wouldn't be too afraid to roll out in very limited capacity. Get a decent projection on him at 8,300 on FanDuel. Don't love the price. 7,300 on DraftKings. I think it's a lot more workable, a lot more in play. What would your percentage on him over on DK be? Something like 20?
For who?
Sheffield?
Sheffield. I'm setting these now. I'm going 20. Good call. So Bundy, we're at 45. I'm going 60. Lance Lynn, we're at 37. I'm going to go 30. Brett Anderson, we're at 30. I'm going 40. Ross Stripling, we're at 30. I'm going to have to match the field because I'm running out of guys here. Luke Weaver, we were at 28. I said I really liked him. I'm going 35. He'll be a guy I may bump up. Brubaker, we've got at 10. I'm going to go 10. We didn't mention Cahill as much. Very scary. Boomer bust. He's been hurt a bunch. We have him at 10. I'm going at 10. I'd feel better if this was in last year's San Francisco Oracle Park. You guys have heard my cockamamie theories about juice balls there. This is not a good pitcher's park, but I need guys. So that adds up to, let's see, 90, 130, 116, 17, 19, 20. So I've got 225% for pitching. So that should give me enough wiggle room to get my stacks to work out for me. I'm going to go set, let's go with what? 30% cap on my hitters, except for Coors Field.
There we go.
Because we're going to need some of these other guys here. I'm going to set them at 50%. And then now I'm going to run stacks. So we've got 6 minutes left. This is, I have all the best intentions, and then things don't always work out for me.
I'm just hoping mine exports right now. That could just be done.
Yeah.
I've been crunching in the background here.
And this is where you guys, it's like content comes first for me, and that's why everyone's like, oh, you play the quarter games and oh, you do this, you do that. It's like, okay, but I'm willing to bail on everything right now if it doesn't work. I've set everything for games not starting at 7:05, so I have myself a little out. I've already made my NASCAR lineups. I've done the other stuff, so I try to come first here with what we're doing, but it doesn't always work out. So Dodgers, I'm going to go 10%. Texas, I'm going 7. Pittsburgh, I don't really like it, 7. Going against Brubaker. Milwaukee, I'm going 10. Going 15 with Washington. Boston, I'm going 15 with. San Diego, I'm going to go 20. Colorado, 20. San Fran, I'm keeping at 7. Arizona, I'm going to keep at 10. I'm going to go 15% against Sheffield. How much does that add up to? 20. That should get me to 100. And if you don't have your stack set at 100, it's not going to work. I'm going to run some 4-4s here. I got 4 minutes to. So this is crunch time. Pucker factor is high for your old pal. Could not find enough players under the salary cap. That's a problem.
Loosen up some of those restrictions quick. Maybe crank your individual player caps up. Those guys you had at 30, maybe jump to 40.
All right. Got this.
While you're looking at that, since you mentioned it, you mentioned we didn't really talk Cahill. D-backs were a stack I wrote up last night in my chalkier stacks type of piece, and I like them here. I think he's a targetable pitcher. Just the way I wrote it up last night, over 102 innings in 2019. He had a 5.11 xFIP, just a 17.8% strikeout rate. 1,456 innings in his career. He has a 4.44 xFIP and a 17.7 strikeout rate. It was reliably between 19 and 21% from 2014 to 2018. He's at 31% strikeouts over his 11 innings this year. That's not real. That is not who he is. So that's going to come back really quickly. He's at 15% walk rate so far this year. That's closer to real, but that's also probably going to regress, come down to his normal 9.5% area. He's done a great job limiting hard quality contact so far this year, something that will probably also normalize over time. Averaged just 85 innings per year since the start of 2014, so he's just not a guy who we can rely on. I expect him to get a full outing here. I expect that he's not going to come out of the game early or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just not a pitcher I really believe in. I don't think we're really seeing a renaissance. I think this is just a blip. So I would focus more on the Snakes bats.
All right, I've got 3 minutes to go here. I've got half my crunches done. And you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's just go super heavy on Coors Field.
I like it. I don't know how much Coors I ended up with. We shall see.
So let's go heavy, heavy. Give myself some outs here with a little bit of them. A bit of that. Go lineups. See how that works.
So just in crunching, looking at what I entered, and I have more lineups than I had placeholders in there. So these aren't going to be entirely accurate to what I actually entered. But in my crunch, Anderson was my highest share pitcher, then Weaver, then Bundy, then Sheffield, then Anibal in very rapidly declining amounts. So, like I said, I was taking out an interesting share of Brett Anderson tonight, and looks like I'll be riding that pretty heavy. Stacks-wise, leaning into Boston, leaning into San Fran like I thought. A lot of Dodgers, some Washington, some Angels. Limited cores, middling shares of cores on both sides of it. Got some, but not a ton, which is typically how I'll approach cores. I like to try and get elsewhere when a lot of the ownership is going to cores, unless there's a spot I really like. I do like today over there a little bit better than what I probably got to, but I'm comfortable with it.
All right, I'm going to hit upload, copying into my master file. Hopefully I picked the right player pool, hit save.
That's always a panic moment for
under
me.
30 seconds. Waiting, please no red. Oh, I got him in. All right, so let's look at some percentages here. And sorry, guys, but one reason I've been playing more on all of this is we only have 2 months. We're halfway through the season right now. Normally we have 6, so I don't care. And I'm like, okay, I'll just play lighter on days where I'm up to a lock. We get a third of the season this year, and baseball is my most profitable sport. So I got to jump in here and do this. Plus we're doing basketball. Plus we're doing NHL, which is NHL is my second most profitable sport. Thank you, Awesemo Tools, because that helps me a ton. And then it's football, and then it's basketball. Basketball is just tougher because it's more projectable and all of that. So I over the course of a long season can eke out a decent amount. Like last year, I cleared just over 12K on DraftKings and a couple of grand on the other sides. The year before that, it wasn't that much on DraftKings, but Yahoo, I had a great year, two really good football weeks. I made like 10K. So I don't make a ton of money on this, but I also never redeposited basically from when I started. So I've changed the way, I've reinvented the way I've played a bunch of times. Because the technology has changed, projections have changed, strategies have changed, the field has changed. There's no fish anymore, right? Come on, really? Who hasn't? You're born with a DraftKings and a FanDuel account, right? So you got to figure out what you're doing. And so I had to make a decision point here a few years back, and I tried to, what would I do if I did this full time? Now I'm in my prime earning years, and I have a very lucrative day job, so it's hard, and I'm in compensation, so I know what everybody's worth, right? That's my job, is to figure out what you all should be paid, right? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
All of you, every single one.
Yeah, who's a valuable friend to have? I am. So I oversee bonus plans, stuff like that, right? So it's a pretty cool job, and I love it. So I had to come to a decision point here. So mine, and I love the content. I love the puzzle, the instant gratification. Am I right? So I put in 30 hours a week here at Awesemo, 50 hours a week at my regular job. Fortunately, I don't have kids, don't have any. This is my hobby / second job / whatever, but I love it. Can't turn the brain off like a lot of us, right? That's why we do this. If I, before DFS, I was doing crossword puzzles. I was playing computer chess against the computer, doing stuff like that, right? Just because you can never turn your mind off. So what my whole point in all of this is, it's the puzzle for me. But content comes first. It's just been a lot harder this year because we've never had the 3 major sports going on together and an abbreviated season, and knowing we don't have that many bites at the apple, right? If I get 6 months at baseball, I'm going to make money. That's fine. This is my 30th year of fantasy baseball, right? I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to get there. But the margins of error keep coming down. So I don't play a boatload of money, so I got to be a nit about this. So like today was one of my bigger days. Got about $500 in play across all the different sports. I used to play on big NFL weekends, close to $10,000 in play. I don't do that anymore. That was in the day where barely rake was 10% if the contest even filled up. I was more of a cash game grinder, and I would eke stuff out. And then I do stupid things and lose it, or play above my head, or do dipshit things like that, right? Never lost everything, but that's why you don't see me with the 6-figure prize pools. What Terry does, what Greg does, what Adam does, what Alex does, that is incredibly hard right now. Josh kind of sums it up best. It gives me pleasure in knowing I can make money in a game that is against me with that 15% rake, right? So the whole point of all of this is have fun, but you're seeing me. It's always going to be content first, and that's why I said I've got my outs. Yeah, maybe I have to stack Coors in every single lineup, but it's hard. So you're seeing me do more of a scramble up till lock this year. Now, a lot of people have reached out to me and said, "Thank you. I find it interesting when you're calling out your percentages. You're saying what you're doing as you're doing it. I get that. That helps me think about things going forward." I've been doing some direct messaging in our Slack chat with some people that said, "Hey, my lineups are shit. What is going on?" Well, they've expanded their player pool. So you saw me go through and I said everybody tonight default 5% for pitching. So we'll just use that since we didn't have a teaching show today. And we still got 250 people watching. We'll put
I got nowhere to be.
So
I'll do another hour if you want.
So I went 5% with everybody, but then I start going through and say, because that's my default. This year, I'll take anybody, because if you can last 3 innings and not go negative, you'll actually have value this year. That's something that I used to go heavy on the best pitching, and then I could figure it out with bats, right? And go from there. This year, rules are out the window at this point. And by the way, I heard some people on another site talking about the expanded rosters. I believe they're at 26 right now. They went 30 for 2 weeks, 28 for 2. Oh,
they changed it. They left after people started going out every day with COVID and everything. They changed it to just be 28 the rest of the year.
Perfect. Which makes sense. Which is 2 above what it was normally, and that's 3 above what it was 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. They gave him that 26th guy. We used to only get the 26th when it was a double header. Then they said, we're going to do it anyway because the players union, yada yada yada. Anyway, so what I did is now I go and try to plant my flag on above or below with the pitching, and I've taken different approaches. So tonight, we had Bundy at 40. I went 60. Got it. We had Lynn at 37. I mentioned I liked him. Tough lineup. I think this Texas ballpark is more of a pitching park than anybody's giving it credit for. But again, he's going against one of the most fierce offenses out there. I went 30%, so I came in a little bite lower. Brett Anderson, I set him at 40. We have him at 30. I came in at 20. I gave it some wiggle room there because I believe in him to survive. He could give up 2 home runs tonight and still only give up 3 runs. That's Brett Anderson. So I'm okay with.
Honestly, I think I would sign off for right now.
Yeah,
if given the choice, even on FanDuel.
There's a hint that he could get a quality start, which is huge. Ross Stripling, I liked him as a pitcher. He's 8,400. We have him at 30. I said I'll match the field. I got 25. Luke Weaver, you guys heard me say I'm taking a stand on that. We had him at 28. I went 35, got 35. Brubaker, he's cheap. He's 5,700. He doesn't give up power. He could go through the lineup 1.5 times, 2 times. If he gets 4 innings, 2 earned runs, chef's kiss. I'm good with it. Oh, yeah. And then Cahill, I ended up with none. I'm surprised on that, but I did get 20% Justice Sheffield. And then I had Sanchez, Senzatella, Mazza, Baez at 5. I didn't get any of them because I loosened it up. But then I went heavy on Coors Field, right? So let's look and see, did I get the right Coors Field guys? Because if you say I want Coors Field 4-4 stacks, both sides, and I want these pitchers, it'll give you that. It's not going to be the hitters you want. So I went 50% on Tatis, Grisham, Machado, Kemp, Fuentes, Tapia, 16% Wilmeyer, 35% Story. Those are double everything we had. So I'm heavy on this game tonight. Nolan Arenado 24. We had said 16. Greg Garcia, 7 career home runs, I think. He hits 1 a season whether he wants to or not.
This is going to be the night.
Yeah, 25% for him. So this is kind of how you mix and match. So I'm comfortable with that, and I knew that was going to happen with where I was going. Now the game's got to play out. Now watch us get a 3-2 game in Coors Field. But anyway, this is how you quickly do all this
I don't even want to
stuff.
say the thought that just crossed my mind when you said that.
Yeah.
I won't say it out loud, but it has to do with something that the news guide would tell us about.
Oh, somebody getting traded or weather?
No, I'm just sorry. With your shares of Coors Field and the force field potentially breaking down around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll knock on wood for you. That ain't gonna happen.
There we go. So, hey, live and learn. I'm not going to get mad about this. A couple $100. If it goes up in fire, it goes up in fire. There we go. So that's my approach.
Overall, I like most of what you were doing there with the ownership shares and what you were talking about with the way that you use the caps to kind of manipulate it into giving you the guys that you want. That's an important and under-discussed part of using Fantasy Cruncher, is how to manipulate Fantasy Cruncher to actually deliver the lineups that you want in the right ratios. So I have formulas that sets all that for me and bounces off of what the pitcher's ownership is expected to be and does some other funky things off my home run model and everything. But ultimately, what it does for me is it boils it down so that typically top 5 hitters are going to be at a larger share, and it winnows that down as it goes down the lineup to the weaker hitters. If a guy pops into a weird spot, it takes care of that for me without me having to worry about doing it manually, where that guy's going to be still at a higher ownership projection, but based on hitting 8th instead of hitting 5th, let's say, that will come down a little bit to give it a little bit more appropriate share because he's going to maybe miss a plate appearance hitting 8th. So different ways to handle it, but very important to do so that you can kind of angle it and slice your constructions the right
way. Yeah, and it took me a long time to get to this place to do that this quickly. I used to just play a handful of lineups, but I don't think that's the way to do it anymore. And I feel that going this route in the lower dollar tournaments, playing more lineups gives you more bites at the apple. Playing all the slates, playing all the different formats. If we have superior projections for both players and their popularity, which I think we do, that will help us in the long run. So for me, it's all about the long run. It's just unfortunate that this year that we didn't have Bupkis for 100 days, right. and that would have been. And I futzed around and I think I ended up making just over $300 on all the free rolls and all the other contests that they were doing, and it got a bunch of site credit. And then I actually made money in League of Legends and iRacing and CGO, but I was just playing enough to win all these milestones and crowns and all of that. But I was still profitable because we have the projections, because we have the strategy, and it was fun. It was horrible missing sports. It was horrible for everything everybody has to suffer for through this pandemic and all of that. But it was kind of fun being a player again, right? Where I'm not the one creating the content, I'm utilizing it. And that's kind of a different. That's why I like hockey. That's why I like NASCAR.
That's kind of what got me into NASCAR, was just like our tools are so sharp and there was really nothing else going on for a little bit at the time. That part of my weekends now is I'm a NASCAR DFS fan. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a NASCAR fan, not quite yet, but I learned some stuff about the sport, just through doing it. So you find cool things to, I learned about how they tune the cars and everything. It's a cool sport. Got a lot of history. So you learn interesting little things that way. And I just love the tools we have at the site. And just talking about with GPPs this year, I think your strategy of coming down to a reasonable buy-in level, something that you're comfortable with, but where you can roll out a full share of whatever the max is. If it's a 20 max, roll out 20. And you can't afford to do that over a $10, go down to the $2. You're not going to win $1 million doing that, but you're going to build a bankroll. You're going to learn consistency. And this game is all about consistent process. You can't get frustrated with short-term results. It's all about doing the right thing and repeating that process over and over again and just plugging away. And that's why they call it grinding. It's similar to poker. It's all about process. Limit your mistakes, limit the amount that luck has to be a factor for you, and really, really zero in on boiling down a consistent and good process. Use our tools to do it. You can't get better in the industry. Don't sweat poking around for little points of data on fan graphs and stuff. It's all accounted for in things that Alex is doing, things that Josh is doing, things that I'm doing, things that Emac looks at when we talk these things. So it's all right there for you. Take advantage of that, boil down a process, and just stamp it out, repeat it as much as you can.
Absolutely. All right. With that, gamers, we're getting on out of here. Hit that like button on the way out. Let's see if we can get that next century milestone. Reminder, we will be on at 11 a.m. tomorrow. That will be Greg Ehrenberg and myself for MLB. We're going for 1 hour, and then we're turning it over to Josh and Zach Bruner on a separate feed, but they will be taking you for that last hour up until the 1 o'clock NBA tip-off for tomorrow's games. With that, gamers, good luck.